thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Cynthia and today's video is a journal with me video. I've pre-selected some pages that I'd like to work in. My journal is getting a little bit full, so it's getting a little bit harder to work in it, but I'm still really enjoying using it. And here I'm just showing you some of the ephemera that I've picked out. What I really wanted to journal about was a little bit about nature and how nature kind of feels magical to me, so I just wanted to kind of translate that feeling onto some pages. So I have a variety of vintage ephemera as well as some printables, of course, and just whatever I felt like journaling with today. And so my first step is going to be to cover I have a blank space because it's a printable and I want to cover the other side of that. So I'm just picking out which of these printables I want to use. I think I want to use the strips of vintage wallpaper that I have there. And I'm just trying to decide which wallpaper I'm going to be using with which printable, trying to match two of them so that they go well together. So now that I've made up my mind, I'm going to be trimming that digital print, and this one is from little Bindy. As always, I'm going to have everything listed down below as much as I can. Sometimes I forget certain elements in the spread by the time I upload it, but I really do my best. But if you ever have any questions about any specific piece of ephemera, feel free to comment down below, ask me anything that you may be wondering, and I'll be happy to answer. I do try and be as good as possible with replying back to comments. Sometimes I don't get around to it right away, but I do my best to respond to every comment. And here I'm just trying out folding to rip. It does take a little bit longer, but the way that it rips is not quite as perfect as with my ruler, so that's why I'm trying that out and seeing if I like that better than using my ruler. I don't know that there's enough difference for the amount of time it takes me more, but it's either way works really. So here you see the actual printable that I have bounded into my journal. That one is from Dust to Roses. It's one of my favorite ones. It's like a embroidery pattern. And I'm just inking around because the piece of paper that I glued onto the back of it is a little bit bigger. So I was thinking about this recently, and I don't know, I think most people I guess anyone that doesn't speak French likes to use, or well, not everyone likes to use, but whoever doesn't speak French can use whatever paper that is French into their journals. But because I understand what's written on there, sometimes I feel like I stop myself from using some printables and some vintage ephemera because I actually know what it's about. Recently I was playing around with one of Ruby and Pearl's digital kits, and although I love all of it, I stopped, I didn't use one of the printables because I knew what it said and it didn't go with what I was journaling about. So I just wonder, if you don't speak French, does that ever cross your mind what's actually written on the papers? Because I always think about it when I'm using papers that are in a different language that I don't speak. Anyway, I just thought it was funny how I can stop myself from using certain things because I'm like, well, I think the paper that I'm referring to says something about a hairdresser, and I was journaling about something completely unrelated to hairdressers, so I didn't want to use that paper. It's like, well, it doesn't really work. But nobody else would have known, I guess, unless you spoke French. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit today. So here I've decided I'm gonna be using the 2 strips of wallpaper, and I kind of want to put them on both sides of the spread so that it really offers a little bit of continuity and makes everything kind of flow and mirror from one side to the other. I'm just ripping the edges so that it's not just like a straight edge. And to distress the sides, I don't want to be ripping them because I don't want to lose some of the beautiful flowers. So I'm just going to use my X-Acto knife, and I'm just gently brushing it along each of the sides of each of the strips, and it's just going to distress it enough so that it's imperfect, but it doesn't it won't lose any of the beautiful florals. And then I'm just going to be gluing those with some wet glue, applying some to each one of the strips. Here I was just making sure that the strips I've just glued are not sticking out too much so that they would get ruined as I'm closing the journal with the ribbon that I have on there. But they were just sticking out enough. And now I'm ready to move on to some other elements. In this spread, I was a little bit uncertain. I had a lot of elements I wanted to use because I really like the colors, but I didn't know how I was going to use them. So I played quite a bit around with those elements and trying to make them work out. And you know, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have a really clear idea in your mind of how things are going to come together, and other times you just need to play around with each element a little bit more and just try and make it work one way or another. I love the way that this illustration, or well, this vintage photo looks, so I wanted to frame it a little bit onto that printable, and I'm just using kind of scraps from a book page that I've been using, and I'm just going to frame the picture that way. That's something that I really love to do. I just find that it's simple but very effective, and that's going to be it for that specific page. I liked the simplicity of it. The way that the printable looks in behind just makes it feel to me a little bit like magical and mystical, and that's really the feelings that I was going for as I was creating these pages. You'll also notice I finally got myself some real bone folders. They're nothing special really. I believe I got those off of AliExpress. They were like a couple dollars, or not even. I'm not sure. My husband does all the ordering for that. But it really is a great tool. So I'm really happy to finally have a couple of those. And I just used some double-sided tape to adhere the picture onto the page. And then I'm gonna grab another piece of that book page, and just stick that at the bottom so that that picture is well framed. So because I couldn't make up my mind on how I was going to be using that pink tag, I decided to move on to something different that I knew I wanted to do. I'm going to be using this printable to create a envelope. I have a little bit of a tutorial on creating some envelopes that I recently posted. It's in the Lady in Blue journal playlist. So if you're curious to have a little bit of a more in-depth explanation on what I'm doing, you can go and check that out. Otherwise, I'm just folding the paper with my eyes, well, with my fingers, but just using what looks right. I'm not measuring anything, just really going with the flow. And it's rare that I measure stuff because that just takes the fun out of it for me. I was never very good at math, and measuring things just makes me feel like that. So I'd rather just kind of go with it and try and make it as straight as possible with my eye. And here, so I've just folded the basic shape of the envelope, and then I'm going to cut out the excess before I can rip some of the edges and ink up a little bit to distress. I'm also going to be adding the other side of that, or the remainder of that printable that I trimmed earlier for the other side of that page, and I'm going to use that as the inside of the envelope. And this time, because if you've watched my tutorial, you know I made a mistake back then. This time around, I thought about it and I glued the printable inside before doing the ripping, so that worked out really nicely. But here you see me just trimming off some of the excess paper that I don't need to create that envelope. just finishing up the inking. As you can see, I really need to change the little little piece that's like removable from my inking tool, but I can't be bothered, so this is what it is for now. It still works. I'm just trying to make sure that it's kind of even all throughout, and what I'm going to do to close it up is just run it through my sewing machine, and then I'll be collaging a little bit onto it. I just wanted to keep this one simple. I didn't really want to add more bulk into my journal by adding fabrics to it, so I'm going to avoid that for this one. And I'm just grabbing another piece of that same page that I used earlier, and I'm just going to add that as well as a little sticker, and then I'm going to be trimming a little label and gluing that onto there as well so that I can identify the date of my spread onto it. So here I finally make up my mind on where I would like to have the pink tag, and I'm just going to be adding a piece of chiffon ribbon to it just to add a little pop of white on there and some texture. And it just felt like there was something missing to this spread. I knew I needed a lot of space to journal, but I also felt like it was incomplete. I've been trying to start using mixed media into my journaling a little bit more. So what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to grab some white gesso, and I'm just going to be putting some onto the page, and just to allow myself to be able to write a bit more of not a title, but just a little bit of well, I guess it is a title. Sorry. A little bit of a title to my spread. I am going to be making a spelling mistake on there, so don't worry about it. I know it's all good. It's imperfect, but you know, it's really okay. Here you see me just painting on some white gesso. I really like that it still allows the print to show through. I think it's probably important to note all my digitals, I don't have a printer at home, so I get everything printed professionally. Well, like at the store. So I don't know if you do that on your personal printers, if the ink from your printer, like from your print, might bleed if it gets wet. I have no idea. But that's how I get my stuff printed. So I don't have any issues with that. But here I'm just adding a little bit more opacity to it, and before I'm able to write a bit of a title, I am going to be writing "There is magic everywhere," I want to say, or all around. But rather than write "there is," I wrote "there's is." That's about right. You know, that's where my mind is at. Recently, I'm making some silly mistakes here and there, but it's all good. We all have our little bit of ups and downs. So here I'm just finishing off, making sure that it's all kind of equal a little bit everywhere, and then I'll be writing. And that's about it. I'll do my journaling off camera, and then you'll get to see a close-up. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that it could give you some ideas on some journaling spreads that you can do in your journal. If you like this video, feel free to give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. I wish you all a really great day, and I'll talk to you in my next one. Thank you so much. Bye now. Thank you.